9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I've seen so many families who would do anything for each other. I mean, just anything for each other. And the house wasn't really the problem. It was everything that the house represented. So look, when mom and dad pass away, or your parents pass away, or your grandparents pass away, whoever owns the home passes away, it's easy to sell when there's only one person involved. And imagine a family of 5, or a family of 2, or a family, like I recently have a client who had a real estate portfolio of 8 houses and lots of money going to different memories, different family members throughout the transaction. And like, imagine how complicated that gets, what that experience is like for you, especially when you're the executor of the trust. Well, or do you even have a trust is another scary story, right? I don't have a trust. Mom and dad didn't have a trust. They only had a will. Mom and dad didn't even have a will. Now you have to go through probate. That's a whole nother aspect of the transaction. Homes become very emotional only because of the experience. Sometimes you lived in the house, sometimes you haven't. Sometimes you sell mom and dad's house. I just recently sold one where it was mom and dad's house. Well, actually, it was only dad's house. Mom never lived in there because the parents were divorced. Dad lived there with his girlfriend and caretaker for many years. And his sons never lived in that house. That wasn't the house they grew up in. And he'd been in that house. Dad had been in that house for probably 20 years, something of that sort. And there was trauma just selling that house. Now, what was the trauma? One brother just wanted to get it done, put it on the market, sell it just like it is. I don't want to do anything to the house. I just want to sell it like it is. And the other brother, he said, no. I've got money to invest. I want to invest in this house so we can sell it for as much as possible and be competitive in the Southern California real estate market. So how do you navigate those two feelings, those two opinions? And then they had wives included in this conversation. And now why are the wives' opinions, why do they matter? Well, because this is their money, they're investing in this property. So navigating that is a whole nother ballpark. And that one we ended up doing it quickly. We did a very simple renovation to get that property ready for market and get that property sold as quickly as possible for the most amount of money. And we were successful at it. We did it. It was fantastic. And luckily, brothers and wives worked through that with no major challenges. It was just a done deal. And they had a great agent to navigate all the ins and outs of the renovation because neither one of them lived local to the property. Thankfully, Dad had a trust. And thankfully, one of the sons had some money to make the property that more presentable. Because to add to that house, we had about $4,000 worth of goods that needed to be removed from the house. Well, wait, why didn't you just do an estate sale? What is an estate sale? Can you do an estate sale? We've done a whole episode on estate sales. This house, the stuff that was in the house, it just wasn't valuable enough for an estate sale. So we literally paid someone to go in there and remove everything. Well, it's trash. Why would you have to pay someone to do that? Because even trash costs money. Even trash does. Even if you donate it, it still costs money because someone has to physically move that stuff from one property to the next. So it's not easy when you receive mom and dad's house and you go, wow, look at all this stuff we have to work through. All the stuff that's in the cupboards and the closets and all of it. And we navigated it. We sold that property for the most amount of money. And the brothers were great. And the wives were supportive. So it was done well. And luckily, both brothers were on the same page. Just sell the home as soon as possible. They didn't wait. Dad passed. They got the death certificates that were needed. They settled everything. And then we moved forward and we got that house on the market and sold that house. There was nothing holding them back because there was a trust, there was agreement, and we had a willing buyer who closed on it at a number that made great sense for everyone involved. And an agent, that was me, who hustled to make sure it was ready as quickly as possible. And that was working with the right contractor teams to get in there and knock it all out in a timely fashion. And it could always go another way. I have another property I sold a few years back. Again, two brothers inherited this property. And these two brothers, well, one was like, let's sell it. And the other one's like, no, let's rent it. And luckily, mom and dad had put it in the trust. And this had been the childhood home they grew up in. This had been the space that made great sense for them all their lives. I remember when we walked through the property, they talked about what bedroom was theirs and where they lived and the things they did in that backyard and where they learned to ride a bike. I mean, all of this great stuff. And, well, they were not in agreement. They wanted to sell, and one didn't. The brother and his wife said, yeah, let's sell it. The other brother was like, no, I want to rent it out. And his wife was like, yeah, let's rent it out. So there was a compromise. They rented it out for about, I want to say 3 years, 4 years. And they had a great tenant, not anything fantastic. They had a property management company that handled it all. And they were not thrilled with the rental experience. And they weren't making all the money they anticipated they would make. And it gave them time to detach from the house because now they were dealing with problems as the tenant lived in there, the challenges of having a renter in the property, electrical work to be done, ACs to be fixed, you know, all that good stuff, gardener, all that good stuff that you have to deal with when you have a tenant. Well, both the brothers had to make all those decisions together because they were co-executors on the trust. So they equally made all decisions together. Well, that can get exhausting because, as you know, I know my brothers and my sister, the four of us, we would probably butt heads a little bit because we all have different opinions. And I think that's normal. And it can make it very challenging and exhausting in real estate. So they finally came to agreement and they said, let's sell the house. So when I met with them, that's what we did. And they had now added an extra layer of liability because they were owners of the property who had knowledge of the things that had been repaired or not on this property. The items that were fixed. There was electrical work to be done. Well, one of the brothers was an electrician. He knew everything about electricity. So that means any electrical work that we disclosed that was done on this property, he needed to make sure he disclosed that correctly because he had additional knowledge and education in that area. So does that help or not? It all ends up in the hands of a courthouse judgment. if you end up in court. Hopefully you don't. They didn't. We sold the house. Wasn't easy. The sale actually was not too challenging. I did have two brothers who didn't always agree on everything that we were doing during the transaction. But overall, the transaction went well and they got the property sold. And that's all to say the trust didn't specify how soon they had to sell the property or what they were going to do with the property after. All it specified was that the money would be dispersed accordingly, whatever that is, 50-50, 80-20, whatever that be. That was the only specification in the trust. Then I did another one. I have so many that I could share with you. Another one where I think it was the best, the absolute best one. It was very clean cut and very specific. This woman owned 3 real estate properties that were rental properties. They were all multi-units, which means they had 2 units or more. And they all were tenant occupied. And they were all in LA. And then she had her primary residence, which was in Orange County. And she liked to do things big. She had 5 kids. Whew, that's a big family to me, especially nowadays. She had 5 adult children, right? All 5 of them. The trust specifically said, when I pass away, all my properties are to be sold within 30 or 60 days. I can't remember the exact timeline now, but we had to hit a certain timeline. It had to happen. And so the kids scheduled the appointment with me. I was referred over to them. We all met at a local real estate office in a conference room where one of the brothers was not local. He was up north. So he joined us via Zoom at the conference table. And we sat down, and because we had to sell these properties so quickly because of her passing, the trust specifically said all my real estate must be sold within 30 or 60 days. We had to determine accurate prices and pay attention to exactly how long the market was going to take, and then we would get these properties on the market. And so what did that look like? Well, it actually worked out well. These kids came together, they made that decision, they signed all 3 listing agreements with me. I was not in charge of the primary residence. That one had already been taken care of. I just had to get these 3 other properties sold. They agreed for me to sell them off market, sell them to one investor who gave them a fair offer that they were willing to accept. All of the siblings were present at that meeting, and we accepted that offer, tenants in place, sold those 3 properties in like 15 days or less. It was possible, and it is possible. And let me tell you, there was no bickering between them. There was nothing, because Mom's instruction was so clear that it made sense. They knew exactly what they had to do. They knew exactly how quick they had to do it, and they knew exactly where the money was going to go and how it was going to get dispersed. And there always is one sibling that pushes back a little bit. There always is. And still we made it through that transaction. So, look, all siblings often remember the childhood home differently. They experience it differently. They feel it differently. And then there's the home that isn't the childhood home. They still experience those memories differently, even if they're the income properties. I know my grandmother had 5 pieces of real estate that she had. Actually, I think she had 10 pieces of real estate, and she lost all of them to foreclosure. And every one of my uncles and my father had different feelings about all of that real estate when my grandmother lost those homes. Some of them thought they were an inconvenience and a problem, and it was better that they were gone. And some of them were part of the process of helping collect the rent, helping do the repairs, helping build her empire, right? So it just depends on the personal experience. So you have to honor the emotions throughout. And that can be challenging. And the best way to avoid that is to make sure you have that trust and be as specific as possible. I know my father said when my grandfather passed away, he was the youngest sibling in the relationship of all the brothers. There's a total of 5 kids in the family. He was the youngest and he was in charge, the executor, when my grandfather passed away, of his estate. And my dad said that was really hard because my grandfather wasn't super specific about everything in there. And so the emotions still got in the way. They got through it and they all still love each other, but they all had different experiences and emotions, and none of them grew up in that house. Some of them lived in it, but didn't grow up in it. But they all experienced love in it, and hurt, and loss. That's just what happens with a home. So you have to be prepared for that. So it's really important that you understand how to keep relationships more than the real estate, because that's what real estate is about, right? Real estate is about creating a space that's a home for someone. It's a safe space. It's a place where you go, yes, I want to get comfortable. I want to relax. I want to be safe. I promised my 4 sons, like always, when they come into our house, it's a safe space. They are going to come in there and feel like they can have peace and quiet. And that's what you want. And sometimes that's not what it is. That's the goal. That's the intention of a home. And yet so many things happen in homes that make it a different experience. Add on, you don't have a will or a trust, and now you've got to go to probate. Well, that's no fun. I had one of those. 3 siblings inherited a multi-unit in LA. 2 of the siblings had a trust. The 3rd sibling, who was living in the house at the time, did not have a will or a trust, and was in the middle of living in it and renovating it. So he'd torn the walls out of the inside of the house. I mean, it was, when you walked in there, it was just 2x4s and open walls everywhere. Totally exposed, electrical exposed, plumbing exposed, all of it just exposed, exposed, exposed. And he was living in it, renovating it, and he passed away in it. In the middle of all of these renovations, he didn't get to finish the process. That's what the plan was. He would get to live there and renovate it, and then when he was done, they would all sell it together, and the house would be in better condition. And instead, he passed away. That was unexpected. And so then the 3 siblings went to 2 siblings, and 2 siblings now inherited the 3rd sibling's part of the house, who now doesn't have a trust or a will, so 1/3 of the house went to probate court, while the rest of the house was not. What do you do with that? So, if you're in business with your siblings, it can get really complicated and messy. You want to make sure you all have the same values. You want to make sure you all have a trust. Because here in California, you need a trust. Now, you can still sell real estate without a trust. You just go to probate court, and it takes like 3 to 9 months. And it's about 5% of the estate. And so it's expensive. And it's extra stuff. And you got to deal with the courts. Whereas if you had a trust, you just went out and got that trust, and it was done correctly, and it was recorded on the house, and all of the right things were incorporated into the trust. Like I had one family member came to me recently and said, we need to sell the house. It was four, I think there's 4 siblings in this family. And they were all in agreement. The sister was living in the back bedroom of the house, but she said, all right, I'll move out as soon as it's ready to go on market. So she moved right on out. We got it on the market. And then just as we were getting it ready to go on market, we found out that everything was in the trust except the house. So luckily, our attorney, I referred to them, was so brilliant and was able to do his trust magic. I don't know what it is. I'm not a trust attorney. I'm a realtor. But what I do know is that he got it into the trust and we were able to then sell the house. It did slow us down. It took about 90 days. And then we got it sold. So you want to make sure that you've done all of that correctly. Because then if you don't have the right people involved, well, you could get stopped from moving things forward. What a great realtor does for you in all of this is supports you where you're at, is with you right there through it all, the thick and the thin of it, the hard, the tears, all of it. That's what a great realtor does. I mean, even just selling mom and dad's house while mom and dad are alive, and you're the oldest sibling, probably the executor of the trust, and you're sitting down helping them go through that process, and mom gets emotional, dad gets emotional. That's hard. Now add they're not there and you just want to honor who they are. Do what they asked you to do, which was take care of the estate and not put the house, the money, the estate above the relationships. That can be challenging. So I encourage you as a homeowner to be certain you've had all the conversations with the kids, especially as you age and you never know when you're going to pass. Death just happens and you don't know when it's coming, typically. Have the conversations. I've had them with my 4 sons and my husband, and we were all in agreement, and then other people came into the relationship and, well, now things have changed. So it's going to continually evolve. You think you got it all worked out, and then you realize you don't. So you continue to have conversations and be aware of what's happening. I have one gentleman right now that I'm patiently waiting to help, as his mother is in hospice care. And he's doing his best to maintain her residence, take care of her, and figure out where he's going to live next. That's hard work. So if I can encourage you to do anything, is encourage you to have your trust put together, be open to the conversations you need to have with your kids, because once you're gone, you can't help them. So help them now. Don't be afraid of it. Help them now. Have the conversations. And know that when you do pass, it will be done well. And the house will be the least of the challenges. Everyone will be left to thrive. And kids, if you're doing it now, know that the priority here is to know that your parents, well, they spent a lifetime making it a home for you. Honor that and sell it in a way that honors them. And only you guys know that. Doesn't look like any specific thing. It does look like what's right for your family. So whether you sell it ugly, whether you sell it in the condition that it's in, or you improve it and make it better than it was, doesn't matter. What matters is what the family decides to do together. And sometimes that just isn't easy to get to that point. So ask mom and dad, what would they like? And then do that. Don't let your home be the reason why your family falls apart. Do just the opposite. Because home starts with you.